playing right and left with those two guys. So our rules go as follows. Nickelback. Ball's in the middle of the field, go to the left. Ball's on a hash mark, go to the Y side of the field. You're never wrong. Just communicate it to your teammates inside. So in this picture here, he'd be in a nickel left, and now his job is to look for number 2, because he's going to drop off of number 2, and he's going to play a 2-drop technique, as is the will linebacker. So in this basic 2x2 formation, the nickelback and the will linebacker will do number 1, disguise chaos, show that they're coming on a blitz, and then they'll move to number 2. As the ball's snapped, clear the draw play, make sure it's a pass, and what they'll do is they'll shuffle out and they'll locate the inside hip or inside number of the number 2 receiver. So what we do on our 2-drop technique is we understand that we could be attacked in 3 different ways. We can get a quick breaking flat route, we could get a vertical route, or we could get a crossing route. And what we need to do is to play all 3 of those very consistent. What we do for the will linebacker and the nickelback is break them down and teach them one by one. So let's start out with the way the will linebacker on the right-hand side or the nickel linebacker on the left-hand side of the picture will play a flat route in cover 2 robber. As he clears draw play, he'll be shuffling out and he'll see quarterback off the line of scrimmage. Once he clears that draw and he knows it's definitely a pass play, he'll open his hip and shuffle through as he looks at number 2. As number 2 drives to a flat route, his job is not to chase the flat route. His job is to sink and get depth and work back into the hook and curl zone and look for work. He understands that when he gets a flat route by number 2, there's a good chance that there will be a curl or a dig route by number 1. So what we teach both the will linebacker and the nickel linebacker in their cover 2 robber drop is to drop at an angle of 8 to 10 yards deep, working through the shoulder pad or near hip of number 2. If number 2 runs a flat route, gain depth and work underneath number 1. So their vision is working through number 2 to number 1 and possibly number 3 late in the pass play. So once again, number 2 to the flat, get depth in the hole at 8 to 10 yards. The longer the play takes, the more depth they'll get, and read the quarterback. Read the quarterback indicators. So if I'm playing that nickel linebacker, I'm sugaring. Pass shows, I drop. I look up number 2. I start to work for depth. As 2 goes to the flat, I settle with a pedal into my zone, and I read the quarterback. And I'm looking to see if that quarterback's shoulder is to me or away from me. If that quarterback's shoulder is to me, I'm settling in the hole and I'm reading that quarterback. If his shoulder comes here and the ball comes out here, I'm driving on that throw. If his shoulder pad goes to the sideline, when I see the high arm with the hand off the ball, I'm ready to drive on the high arm of the quarterback to the flat route. And that's how we want to cover the flat route with a curl and a dig behind it. Let's go to the next most common route we'll get for the nickelback and or the will linebacker versus cover 2 robber, and that would be a vertical. On a vertical release by number 2, down the field, now what we want to do here is we want to hold the inside edge of number 2 vertical, and we want to wall him out to the outside and over top of us. On any vertical push out of a number 2 receiver, the whole key for a nickelback or a will linebacker is to hold your inside seam, to build a wall between yourself, the quarterback, and the number 2 receiver. And we want to put our body in between those 2 enemy bodies, and we want to force a funnel where we take number 2, escort him down the field, push him outside to force a big bubble. So we force a bubble and give time for our safety to feel the route happening in front of him. Because you see that free safety, he's counting on us to push that vertical outside on a 2 vertical route, because his job is to stay on top of 2 verts. So when we get the second route, the second most common route that we see, the vertical by number 2, the coaching points for the nickel and the will are to clear draw, work inside out on the vertical of number 2, make sure number 2 is pushed outside and over top, and make sure we don't lose a vertical to the inside. Because if we lose the vertical to the inside, that area right there will be open, and it'll be the vulnerable part of any cover 2 defense. Now let's move on to the third release by a number 2 receiver that both the nickelback and the will linebacker will need to do, will need to play very consistently, and that would be the crossing route. So as we go here, number 2 comes up and he runs a shallow crosser. What the nickelback does in cover 2 is he works here, he clears run, he sees pass, he starts to get depth. As he sees this guy turn his shoulders and start to go sideways across the field, he lets it go. He lets it go. He makes an in call to his inside linebackers, and he starts to gain width and depth as he looks at number 1. Again, going back to seeing number 2 first, then checking for number 1, and later in the route number 3. So as he drops, he sees 2 come across. He says in, gives it up to the inside linebackers, and as he sees that in, he's periffing number 1. If number 1 runs a route down and inside pretty quick, he's in a position to drop his feet and play off the quarterback. If there's no number 1 coming inside, now the nickelback understands he needs to find number 3. So in this picture here, if number 3 ran a swing route, that number 3 now really became the new number 2. Because as this guy came inside, he became 3. When they crisscrossed, he became 2. So now he holds his curl flat, once again, at that 8 to 10 to 12 yard area. Remember, the longer the play takes, the more depth we get. And he settles and he reads the quarterback. The thing that guys can't do is they can't be overly aggressive in cover 2 to jump underneath routes. They need to understand that when we're calling Okie cover 2 robber and I'm playing an outside technique, a 2-drop technique, coach called cover 2 and he wants us to protect the sticks, make them throw the football in front of us, and if they do complete a pass, it's in front of us. And then we go and give that guy a headache with a big hit. But what we don't want to do is jump routes and create seams behind us in front of the safety and behind our back with our nickel and will linebacker. Now, with the will linebacker and nickel linebacker playing their 2-drop, the middle linebackers